Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Youngstown's Talk Channel. Kelin, Talk Show King. Here for the morning reviews of all things that are happening in local communities, state, national,
local, national, worldly,
pop culture,
science.
Science, yes. All right.
Yeah.
As usual, I'm grumpy today, so
Mr. Grump.
What do you got?
So there's a story that's gone viral. It's circulating the internet, and I know you're gonna think it's the dumbest thing, but it is kind of cool. Have you heard about the paranormal researcher, paranormal activity ghost hunter that suddenly died while on tour with the Annabelle doll?
Yeah.
You heard about this?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who hasn't somehow, obviously, a lot of people know about Annabelle through the Conjuring movies, which I love. Ed and Lorraine Warren were these well-known, I don't even know, psychic medium type people, who, again, I think are super cool because I'm into that stuff. But they have this supposedly demon-possessed doll named Annabelle. She's been encased for years and years because there's all these reports of demonic happenings around this doll. Well, there's this guy, Dan Rivera, who was on tour with the Annabelle doll. He's like this ghost hunter person, and he was suddenly found dead, I guess, in a hotel room while on tour. And everyone's like, oh my God, Annabelle did it. What happened? And it's all creepy. And of course, they're very hush-hush, I think, for dramatic effect, to make this a creepier story than it is. So I don't know what he died of. The last I saw, there were headlines that were like updates on the death of Dan Rivera. But when I Google him, it still says not a lot of information. He was found in a hotel. CPR was administered, but he passed away. And I'm like, I think they're being hush-hush to make this creepy, to make it like, ooh, is there this thing? Did something happen? Is there paranormal activity? And what do you think?
Too sciencey for that shit. Like,
yeah.
if I died on the sidewalk and you looked around and you said there was a caterpillar next to, what's the likelihood that the caterpillar did it?
Listen, a caterpillar is far different than a demon-possessed doll.
The caterpillar had the stripe on it that said it's going to be a really terrible winter.
Oh.
More likely, more probable.
And did somebody maybe predict this happening before it
maybe
happened?
There's Indian legend, the caterpillars kill Joe Danyes or talk show kings.
Yeah.
You never know. Yes, there's no causal relationship between a doll. You would have to say that scientifically dolls are capable of killing people, right? Are they?
I mean,
that's
a
number
typical
one.
doll, no.
All right,
what
so
about a
very
demon-possessed doll?
Very unlikely. The second part of that is, let's just jump and say demon-possessed dolls are capable. What was the cause of death? And is it likely that a demon-possessed doll would kill somebody with a fentanyl overdose or I
need to know what he died of.
I ate 10 cheeseburgers and I had a heart attack, but it was the doll that killed my heart. So waiting for more information to know whether or not the likelihood that a doll would have used that strategy to kill that person with all of the demon possessed powers, right?
Yeah.
Which did he choose? And then we'll decide.
Do you believe in that kind of stuff at all?
Possession?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all.
No.
I don't really either. But it is intriguing.
Okay. So, but I do agree with the belief in something. You can bring your mind into a state that would resemble what possession is. I mean, look at a fighter going into a fight and gets themselves jazzed up and they keep their brain in a state that isn't their normal personality or how they act or behave. Would you say they were possessed? Yes, self-possession. You can do a lot of funky stuff with your brain.
I don't know if I'd use that term.
Why? Is it not the same thing?
Self-possession.
Self-delusion, self-possession.
I say delusion, but self-possession seems a little redundant. Don't you already possess yourself?
No, you have a hold of yourself. You are in control of a state of mind.
Yourself.
If you wanted to fight a lion, you could put some chemicals in your brain that would make you behave way differently than you would if you were playing bingo.
Listen, Scott says, what the heck do I tune into at 9 a.m.? It's not bathroom discussion, so
Yeah, we have elevated.
pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I was watching another video recently online about this guy who has been touring and doing these podcast interviews, and he claims to be a once head of the satanic church in South Africa.
Okay.
And was this avid Satanist, high up in that community for years. Basically always said there is no God. You know, I believe in God as much as I believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny. And through different things, he has now become a Christian and denounced Satanism, and he follows Jesus, and he talks to people about that. And so, again, whether or not you believe in anything like that is besides the point. It is sort of interesting just to be like, what is he saying? Why does he feel this way? And I shared it with someone I know, and their immediate reaction was drugs. He hallucinated one time. He thinks he saw Jesus, yada, yada, yada. He doesn't claim to have been on drugs at the time.
Well, how do you know the doorway and gateway to Jesus isn't used in hallucinogenics?
Well, that's the thing is, like, this guy, he didn't say he was on any drugs, but in interviews, he mentioned that he did drugs back then. So I don't know, maybe there's a delayed reaction. Did you fry your brain? And maybe you weren't doing them at the time, but it still could have something happened. I don't know. But it's such an interesting topic to where you could take almost anything and logically explain it away and say it was probably this and it was most likely this, which then makes me wonder, what would we have to experience in order to believe something else happened of some other realm? Like, what would it take? Something so inexplicable that you would believe that something supernatural occurred if everything can just be...
Well, I'm not going to force the supernatural on the plane of the natural. Right. And I think that's your first mistake, is in order to experience the supernatural, you have to go to the supernatural to see it. So there's never going to be able to have something. Okay. So if I went into a hypnotic state and I experienced something and I was like, it was real. And you were like, no, you were in a hypnotic state. It was real in the hypnotic state. Go ahead and bring that shit to the real world and see how real it is. It's immeasurable. It's supernatural for a reason. And I don't think we will ever court the supernatural where we stand now.
Are you saying a hypnotic state is...
I use that as an example. Meditative state, hypnotic state.
You think that puts you in a different realm?
Heck yeah.
Literally. Not like figuratively speaking, but...
Literally, it is a different state of consciousness, yes.
But it's not a different world, or
yes,
is it?
It's a different plane.
Like, you leave this plane, this earthly plane, and you go to a different one.
You can simplify it and say, would you consider VR a different plane of reality? The only way that you can measure or describe something is by going in it. It doesn't even exist unless you're in it. So it's closer to our plane. Because
but you're not actually in anything. You're looking at a screen.
It doesn't matter. Your brain recognizes it as an existence. So that block that you saw, or that character or NPC, right, that you saw in there, it was real according to that plane. Go ahead and bring the NPC back to this world, and you're like, that can't happen. It's on a different plane. It's still real as far as your perceptions. You can interact with it. You can talk with it. It has function and utility.
But a lot of people would say, I saw something and it was very real to me, and it could be.
To me. We're talking about perceptions, how our brain is organizing information from wherever we're getting it. And so if you dance with something on the natural plane, it has rules and laws that govern it. And it's hard to bring something from a different plane and make it make sense and apply natural rules to it.
I'm confused.
Yes. Go ahead.
It sounds to me like you're saying something doesn't exist, and then you say it does exist.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist on this plane. Like, Minecraft in VR does not exist, because you can't say go measure it. In order to measure it, you have to go to the plane and then describe what information you saw back on this plane. It's not transferable. It only exists in you maneuvering into two different planes to experience two different perceptions.
If I put on an Oculus and I'm
Yes.
playing a video game
Yes.
and I'm seeing things that look a certain way because I'm watching it on
And
a
I'm
screen,
sitting next to you.
you and I are in the same place.
Yes, we're in the same
I didn't
place.
leave planes.
Right. And I'm going to say, stare straight ahead and tell me what you see. I'm going to say, I see a lamp. And you're going to say,
I see a video game screen.
You say that I see a goat, right? And
in a video game.
In a video game. And it's a differing opinion because in your brain, there is a goat in front of you. You're not lying.
On a screen.
Doesn't matter. You're being fed visual information to your brain. Your brain is assembling it. The perception is there's a goat in front of you.
But there is no actual goat.
In the VR, there is.
The VR is a game.
Doesn't matter. It's creating a perception. It's delivering you information.
So I went to a different place.
Yes, that is the plane. The VR plane is a plane like.
So when this guy, I think his name is Ryan or something like that, when he said this man suddenly appeared, and he says he saw him clear as day. He's like, This was not a vision. This was not a hallucination. Like clear as day. Like I'm looking at any human being, flesh and blood in front of me.
Yes.
A man was standing there talking to me. Was he on a different plane?
Well, it depends.
His brain...
The measure, you have two people, and the one person says there's a flesh and blood person standing in front of me, and the other person says, no, there's not. If there isn't an agreement, then he was seeing something on a plane that wasn't part of the natural. If there were two people and they saw that, then it's part of the natural because you have agreement on what existed in the natural plane.
Yeah, he was alone. No one else saw this.
No.
So
seriously? No video evidence, no physical evidence, just his word?
Right. So I don't understand why you would say he saw something on another plane or just his brain was hallucinating, maybe drugs,
the
maybe
hallucination
whatever.
would be the other plane. Doesn't have to be a video game plane. It could be a hallucination plane. It could be a meditation plane. It could be a prayer plane.
He did say meditation is demonic.
Oh, that's fine.
It's weird. They think a lot of things. Meditation, yoga, crystals, all that stuff, psychics, they're like, not of God. It's all demonic. Don't do it. And I'm like, yoga? And they say, even if you don't realize what you're doing, you think it's just stretching, you think it's exercise, but all those moves are to a Hindu god or something like that. And I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't know if I believe that.
Not agreement. Do not agree.
So Scott says it opens the pineal gland in the brain, the God gland. And we've talked about that before too. Mm-hmm. This pineal gland on top of your head, which I also still have a lot of reservations about. Because does a gland exist there in our brains? Yes. It's proven. It can be found. It's there. The whole idea of opening this gland and seeing things with this gland and having experiences through this gland by merely envisioning it is when I'm like, now it's hooey. Like if somebody went to a hospital and a surgeon physically went in and messed with their brain and touched that gland and they started seeing and experiencing things, I'd totally get it. But are they going to a different plane when that happens? Or are we just lighting up things in their brain?
If it's a gateway to another plane, it would be like the pineal gland when you invoke it by doing certain things, meditation or envisioning or whatever you do to invoke the pineal gland. It responds by opening up information from a plane that you can't have access to without the pineal gland doing its thing.
So I watched a video one time, which again, according to other videos I'm watching, this is a no-no I shouldn't be doing, but watched a video about opening this gland and they call it the third eye. Yeah. And literally they said, all you have to do is just basically close your eyes and imagine a big old light beam like coming out of your head. Mm. Just imagine it. Just imagine it opening and envision some light and envision this and just use your imagination. And I'm like, what?
Let's change it. Okay.
Okay.
Can you invoke adrenaline just by thinking? Picture being chased by a fierce tiger. What your brain does is it responds just from that thought because your imagination invoked it.
Yeah.
You get adrenaline.
Or if you're
You can-
nervous about something.
You can control
yeah.
brain chemicals by just using your brain and picturing certain things. So if people figure out a way to bring a thing like my tiger example, and the light beam, starts making your brain do certain things, and you get a dose of chemicals from your pineal, then so be it. But it's flirting. It's getting in the practice of being into invoke. If I want adrenaline, I do certain things. I can do physical. I could just do mental rehearsals. I can sit here blank face and make adrenaline happen without any kind of stimulus other than the thoughts in my head. So what makes a pineal gland any different?
But you're still just very much in one world, one realm, one body, messing with chemicals in your body.
Yeah.
When does a whole other plane come into?
Soon as you can start seeing information from it. So that if we could see, we can't see radio waves. Radio waves exist on a plane. So if the real definition is our sensory organs are very archaic, primitive sensory organs, can't see Wi-Fi signals and radio frequencies. Would that not be, there's things bouncing around this room that you can't see? Would that not be on a different plane? And if I gave you a set of glasses that let you see radio signals, would you not have access to a plane that basically plane equals agreement? You and I can look around this room and we can agree that certain things exist here. Here, right in this room,
yes,
right? This
here.
is the plane that we're on.
Yes.
If there's a plane where I see information, right? I see information on a different level than you, we no longer agree. I'm going to say, hey, there's a hot object over there. I'm looking through infrared and I see on that wall, there's a big red circle. And you're going to say, no, there's no big red circle. Well, the circle's there whether or not you see it. I saw the information, but the information is on a different plane. If you come to that plane and you put on the IR glasses, you see the red spot. Now we're on the same plane where we can agree that the red spot is on the wall.
I think maybe the hang up is the understanding of what the term plane means.
We just gave you the definition.
Because it doesn't sound like, when I think of plane, I think of an entirely different place.
It is.
But it's not.
It is.
If there is something that exists, it exists, whether I see it or not.
But that's your fake definition of it. Think of planes of a little
a plane of understanding.
Could be degrees of separation between information you have and information that exists, whether or not you can measure it, sense it, see it, process it. So if I'm on a plane where I'm looking at everything from IR and my brain is responding to the information that I have, where I see bodies and I see heat signatures and whatever, like I'm operating in a different plane. I'm talking about things as they relate to the information that I'm able to collect, and you're not. We're on different planes, even though we're in the physical same room, right?
You are not as many degrees of separation from something.
There's big separations of planes and there's really tiny, small degrees of separation.
But how do you know, for example, you said you put on the infrared, you see a hot spot.
Yeah.
It actually exists. That's why you're seeing it. How do you know there is something you're seeing that actually exists, or you are hallucinating? You're seeing, your brain is telling you information that is not true. It does not exist.
Well, it's still information. If your brain's processing it, it's what the information is, making sense of the sensory data. So if you're really used to using your regular senses and then you get a new one, right? And your brain's got to make sense of the information that you're seeing. So if you're seeing bodies or ghosts or whatever, that's just your brain trying to use the natural laws of this plane to make sense of something, of information you're getting from another plane. You could be right. You could be completely wrong. So a hallucination is just processing data and information that you're not used to or not expert at perceiving.
Okay. Yeah. So in the example of this guy claiming to see Jesus, I'm assuming you do not believe he saw Jesus.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, it sounded like you didn't believe it.
All you can do is say, have I ever seen Jesus? And I would say that I am either not connected to the plane where Jesus seeing is possible, or it's not possible to see Jesus. I don't know either way. I've never seen Jesus. That's all I know.
So if someone came up to you and said, hey, have you ever seen a pink elephant with purple polka dots? And you're like, no. And you're like, I have. Eat this and you'll see it. And you eat it and you see it. Did you enter a new plane? Is there something that was there, or did you fry your brain
I-
with
I
a
would-
psychedelic
I would
and you had the power of suggestion and now you saw
right.
something?
I would weigh it down. If it's repeatable and I can do it without the suggestion, then I would say that taking this thing equals seeing this thing. And I would try to figure out from that part. So seeing Jesus and the pink elephant and the hot spots, if you sort of go to a period of time where that stuff has never been suggested, there's always going to be a first person that has to make sense of the new stream of information. So what is the pink elephant, right? It, you know, when you look up at the clouds, and your brain uses its senses to try to categorize and make sense of things, and you see something that looks like a turtle. Is it a turtle? No, it's not a turtle, because the natural deal is, that's just water vapor traveling around, and sometimes it coalesces in something that resembles a turtle. We made sense of that. But there might have been a time where that meant something more than what we know about it as we got smarter in assembling what that really was.
Like, back in the day, people thought the gods of the sky were showing you pictures.
But they weren't dumb. They just had a looser, scientific understanding, a looser connective understanding of different things. They were trying to do the best they could with what they knew. And maybe, 100 years in the future, we'll travel planes more often. We'll get a better sense for what the pink elephant even is. And even then, there's probably more to discover, more to interpret. Our perceptions are going to get more honed over time as we have access to more information.
So Scott was saying that's why children can see deceased loved ones they never met. There's another video that went viral. Have you seen the little boy in the hospital bed? He had a skateboarding accident and he claimed to see Jesus and his dead dad. Have you seen that? So I don't even know how old he is. He's a little boy, and a friend of his mother's was in the hospital room and started recording him. And this video went viral. And he is, I guess, on medication, whatever. I think he had just had surgery. He was some skateboard accident. I don't know for sure. But he's laying there and he's just staring up at the ceiling and he's not even blinking and he's just crying. And he's like, I see Jesus. You're so beautiful. I see Jesus. And then he starts saying, hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. Oh, you look so amazing. And they said his dad died a year ago. And he's like, I miss you and Mom misses you. And you guys look so beautiful. And he's saying all these things and he's just crying. And you can hear the nurses in the background like, oh, he's dreaming. And they're like, it's okay, buddy, but his eyes are awake. And so obviously people took this and ran with it. And oh my gosh, he's seeing the spirit realm. And he's
those are people that want something to be true. And so it all connects to that.
Right. Because then if you watch a longer video of it, he's also saying things like, I want hot wings and I love chicken wings and like other stuff about his mom.
Yeah.
And so they're like, he's just...
I'm fascinated with the same phenomenon, but I don't have a confirmation bias. I don't want it to be anything. I just want to hone my perception. And that's where we short circuit learning, is that when we pick the thing we want it to be and we stop being curious about what the other things it might be. But we do that everywhere. We do that with religion. We do that with, global warming. Like, we buy into the end result that benefits us the most, or we fall in love with the most. And then we stop paying attention to things that could add value to our understanding of the thing.
Yeah. Cause like my thoughts around that is, I mean, my true thought is it's medication reacting to his brain. And everyone's like, oh, he wasn't under anesthesia. It might not be anesthesia. It could be something else. I don't know. I think he's reacting to something happening in his brain rather than seeing dead people. But then I think, but what if he is? And what if whatever they gave him opened up the pineal gland or whatever happened? How do we know? And so that, again, leads me to the question, what would it take for us to experience or see or hear to think there are other realms?
Well, there are so numerous people that have traveled to different places in their mind and gathered information that's interesting, right? And it's not a phenomenon where one dude...
How do you know it's not an imagination?
It is an imagination.
Or lying.
Right. We live in a space-time governed world, right? Everything has to have distance and everything has to have space and has to be compartmentalized. And we flirt with going to places in our mind, but we don't have a quite understanding that that's not really real. That was just your imagination. But if there's information there, right, and there's capabilities there, why is it any different a place than the physical natural world? It's, I mean, if there's stuff there, well, isn't it just as real from your perception standpoint?
But if it's things happening in the brain, physical changes, physical things happening,
opening up different abilities in the brain,
of a physical manifestation.
Doesn't have to be physical.
If your brain, if they can see things firing in a brain on a test, and you're reporting what you're experiencing because of
neurons
this
are firing, you're making judgments, you're trying to process.
That's still in this physical world.
The processing the processing is in the physical. But just like you can go to your mind and have inner dialogue, that's a different place. That's not in this physical world. It's one dimension away.
That's my biggest curiosity is like, and I bring this up, whether it's a science discussion, a religious discussion, whatever, is like, where does consciousness come from? Where does the mind come from? We all know we have brains. But how do you explain the mind, the conscious thinking, the I guess interpretation of information in ways that other people or things don't? Like, it's just so fascinating as to like what is that? What is the like you said, the dialogue you can have, the information you see, the things, the way you use the information. And people can say, oh, well, it's bias you've developed over the years. You know, if you see something because you wanted to see something, it's because of all this other experience in your life. And you make information what you choose it to be based on your own thoughts. But it's like, well, where's the thoughts come from? Like, you know what I mean? I just sort of go rabbit hole.
I always think about these things on their most simple iterations. Okay. And my favorite is the flip book, right?
Yeah.
You make animations with a flip book. The most simple quark of visual, like movies and whatever, is a drawn image on a page assembled with 30 other drawn images, and flip through causes motion and action to happen, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you do that fast enough, you can have a whole television that's redrawing a screen at 60 frames per second, and then you can create an illusion that motion has happened when it's gone to its most simple, it's just a snapshot assembled with other snapshots that gives you the perception and illusion of things moving around. So same thing here. If you take a simple celled organism, right, doesn't really have a discernible brain, does it have consciousness? Or does consciousness happen when you have more assembly of a neurological structure? And we get consciousness when we, like that film strip, how many neurons does it take before some kind of consciousness is revealed? And we'll find out one day when our biological body dies and we have this programming in our head. Where does it go when we're no longer can support it? I don't think it goes anywhere, right? I think you're just dead.
Really?
Okay, so let's use computers.
Okay.
All right, you build a computer and you have a hard drive and there's nothing on the hard drive. How much consciousness, how much function does the computer have? Very simple stuff. You can hit a power button, watch some fans going on. It's not doing anything. You can't run programs, can't play music, can't play movies. So you're like, oh, this thing needs a little bit more capability. So you load an operating system on there, the brain, the neurological system. That means that it doesn't make the computer do anything, but it gives structure to something being done. Once you put the operating system on there, now you can start doing things. Now you have the function of consciousness within the computer system. What happens if the hard drive dies? Where does the data go? Where does the brain go? Where it's gone, right? In order to create consciousness again, you have to give neurological structure. Now, you could argue that if our consciousness is just a happenstance of neurons taking form and development in a certain way, and then I took a snapshot, an image of your brain, all the neurological structure, every chemical, every piece of material, everything from bone all the way down to gray matter. And I profiled that and I just recreated it, reprinted it, and put it in another biological structure. Would it be you and your consciousness would be identical, much like we can back up an image, a hard drive, and move it to a new hard drive, and you open the operating system and your programs and your data, because all that stuff came from the exact assembly of whatever it is that was in that on that hard drive or in your head. That would be interesting.
Like, could you take a cadaver and do a brain transplant and get
And whether or
heart
not you
pumping
can
and get
create
blood inside?
that consciousness in another vessel, that'd be interesting.
Could you technically bring someone back from the dead?
Yeah, it would have to be an exact match, just like the snapshot on a computer. If it's missing some of the, the parts that are hard to recreate, I don't think we're there yet with science to be able to create all of the things that are necessary.
Sounds very Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
But it is interesting if people are like, there is no God, there is no afterlife, you just simply cease to exist, and it's all science. I'd be like, we know a lot about the human body. We can't start it up again.
Yeah, snapshotting where it's at and trying to recreate it in a new vessel. That would be a worthwhile experiment.
Put electricity in and
I don't think that's how it works.
And whatever you do, like you can't.
Well, that would be
again.
Resurrection. That wouldn't be recreation. Right. So if I wanted to take a computer and transfer it to a new vessel, it would have to be in a live shape before I did that with all of its components, or else I would just be transferring dead, gone into a new vessel, and you couldn't do that.
I had a question. What was it? You were talking about the consciousness just goes away.
Yeah.
Do you believe in heaven or an afterlife?
As it exists on a plane somewhere that I don't understand and have no data for, yes, I have that relationship.
Well, how do you believe in that but think your consciousness goes away and you're just gone?
What do you mean?
You said when you die, your consciousness.
We have to define what heaven is to make sure that it aligns with that. So what is heaven?
I always thought if there is this afterlife, our consciousness is there. Our bodies are not, obviously, but whether it's a soul or a consciousness or whatever your internal being is there.
Yeah. I don't believe it. I think your consciousness is a phenomenon on processing the natural world. And I think something else goes to the supernatural world. Doesn't have to be any of the physical stuff. So do I believe that your body in true form is walking around on a supernatural plane? I'm going to need more information before I'm willing to make that jump. Do I think something that created you or whatever can go to another place or energy or whatever it is? I don't know what that is, so I don't know how it would travel, and I don't know what form it would take, and I don't know what the interactions or utility of it would be. I don't know if it'd be a sleep where it would be, an unconscious deal where it's just imagination all the time. I have no idea.
Yeah, like we've talked before, I get really into like near-death experience stories and things like that. And there was one of a little girl that died on a hospital bed. And when she came to later, and they said she was clinically dead. Like they will not count a near-death experience story unless you are proven to be clinically dead. Not near dead, not unconscious, dead. All functions have ceased. And then they start again. And so this little girl said she watched her family get in the car. She was there with them. They went home. She could tell them what the mom made for dinner, what the dad did in the next room. She said, my brother went in his room and was playing with his army trucks. She described everything and that all panned out. Another woman said she could tell you there was a sticker on the back of a fan blade in that room she was in because she's like, I could see the room. I could see you all. I was here. Do you believe in anything like that? Or do you think it's all made up lies?
It's all okay. So the furthest I'll go on that is if your body's having a breakdown where it's close to death or at death, a lot of weird stuff gets pulsated. Biologically, would you want to make sure that if you cut off your hand that you didn't feel that, you deaden that kind of pain? Maybe your brain goes to a different place so you're not experiencing torture, right? So your brain's capable of, when you're hitting something, to concoct all sorts of stuff so you don't have to go out in, terrible agony, right? And so, that concoction that the brain can create will probably produce a lot of things. I believe a lot in what the subconscious picks up that never makes it to the perceived part of the brain, right? So as you're wandering around, your brain is seeing stuff that doesn't register, Could I call on subconscious information when my brain pulsates with all kind of chemicals? Sure. Some shit that I saw.
Like, do you think she could have actually, a lot of families will have like pizza night or spaghetti night, things that are done often enough that they are predictable. Do you think her brain could have been feeding her information that they did go and do, but that's not out of the ordinary? Odds would be they go and do that. The brother always goes and plays with this toy.
It's all information to me, right? And so if the brain can conjure really accurate things up in weird situations, then yeah, it's all on the table. Do I think that there's some mystery, special collection of information that you couldn't have had access to? That's the hokey stuff, because you're going to have to, stuff makes sense biologically, right? But there's always that wall that everybody wants to jump over to make it seem like, ooh, that's fantastical. And that's the wall that I'm not willing to jump over.
Do you believe in scripture, or that things that the Bible claims happened?
Sure. All prophecies, people who go to that spirit realm. I mean, I don't care if they're doing peyote or they're doing, hallucinogen,
or they're not doing anything,
or
and
they can get into that mode, and they get past information. They don't know how to interpret it, so they turn it around and say things that are hard to believe. Yeah, I believe in all of that.
Do you think a bunch of people witnessed a man come back from the dead?
Sure, could be. Then
why don't you believe the people that died on an operating table and saw something, or went somewhere, saw something amazing?
Because I can only go as far as saying they got to information. Well, whether or not it was perceived well or not, if they were practiced at perceiving information, an 8-year-old kid on a table is not practiced interpreting information from a plane that now all of a sudden he's able to see. So that's the best they came back with. You would expect it to be less useful than somebody who was making a prophecy that prayed 5 times a day and was used to seeing information from that plane.
So less useful, but the same. Still getting information.
It's just information. Yeah.
I'm confused. I still don't understand what you believe. I'm so confused. Like, I feel like when I was watching this guy, this Satanist turned Christian, he had said that he didn't believe God existed. He doesn't believe in, Jesus and the resurrection and all that. But he did somehow believe in demons. How do you believe in one thing and not the other? Like, how do you say, oh, I'm an atheist, I believe in science, and that other stuff is just fairy tales, but then you do believe in this? Well, that sounds very much like a fairy tale. And if spirits don't exist, spirits don't exist. Why would you believe in one over the other? And I don't know. It's just very interesting. But do you believe that? Let's take the Bible again, for example. Do you believe those people are just claiming to see things that happened, or do you believe they saw what actually happened?
That's the difference. What is actually agreement, right? That's it. Actually, where 2 people can see the same thing, have an account where you and I looked at the lamp. I wasn't there, right? So all I know is 2 people agreed that something happened, and that's as far as I can take it.
But you can have something exist and not have agreement on it.
Yeah.
You can have something actually exist even if 2 people don't agree.
Yeah.
So say that again then.
So actually would be agreement in the natural world. Right? Does this exist in the plane that everybody can agree on? Is that a wall? Yes.
But you don't have to have everybody agree on it for it to exist.
What does exist mean? You're using the exist as in it's in the natural world, right? Yeah. That would be exist. It's not. So from a natural world, it does not exist. In order to, like, in this room, Disneyland doesn't exist. In order to do Disneyland, you have to go to Disneyland, and then you will agree Disneyland exists because you were there. And I will say Disneyland does not exist because I am not there. It is not in the plane, the physical location that you're on or in.
You and I are sitting at this table in this room, but I'm blind.
Yes.
Does this room exist?
It exists.
But how can it exist if I don't see it? I'm blind.
It depends on what you're saying. Does it physically exist to you? No. And in fact, what if I've been lying to you this whole time and there's not a wall there? Do you have?
But there is. That's a fact.
Yes.
So so there can't be a debate on whether or not something is when it is. It's a proven.
In the blind person's plane, the wall does not exist visually
until they touch it.
Now, one sense would be if they physically touch that thing, then that thing is the wall that you have told them about it, even though they're deprived of being able to see that wall. You have to believe you that it's painted and it's, it goes a really long distance and whatever. So it would take your account in order to fill in the stuff that doesn't exist on their plane, much like I can tell you about the video game in VR, which means the VR actually exists, but it's not in your plane unless you either go get the information yourself or I supply you with what's in the game, and then you can visualize it, and then you can be convinced that the game exists. But if someone who doesn't know what VR is, if I go back to a tribe in the 1800s, and I'm like, I want to tell you, in 2025, you can put this thing on your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see things. Now, does it exist in the physical world in 1800? It does not exist. But since I'm the time traveler and I know that it does exist, me telling them about it, now they can picture it in their head and they know someday it will exist in the natural world and it exists in the perception world.
But it does not yet exist
Right.
in the natural world.
Right.
So if I have an idea for a product that does not exist yet.
Mm-hmm. Nikola Tesla. We'll use him as the example.
Okay. It does not exist.
Right.
But it's my idea. I think I can produce it. I'm going to go ahead and invent this and work on it.
Yeah.
And after some time, I create the product. It now exists.
Yes.
Did I just take it from one plane to another?
Yes. Yes.
That sounds weird.
So Nikola Tesla invented most of his products after he invented them in his mind. So he would visualize them, know how he was going to do it. So it existed in his imagination, the plane of thought. And then he brought it from the plane of thought down to the physical world where he built the thing and it worked.
It's funny. Jerry says, so is there really a force if the trees are in the way from you being able to see it? I was going to say, is this the whole, like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yeah. In your plane, you can get agreement that there are forests, right?
Yeah.
What?
I'm confused. The whole tree falls in the woods thing to me is interesting because people want to say, how can sound exist if no one's there to hear it? But what is sound? Vibrations, sound waves, energy that can all still exist if no one's around. You still have a vibration. You still have waves come off of something. That's sound. So does it make a sound if no one hears it?
Sound defined by waves reaching your eardrums would be the sense that says sound happened. If there were no eardrums for the sound to connect to make what is perceived as sound, then there wouldn't be sound. Sound requires a perception. It's exactly analogous. It's 100% analogous.
My brain is breaking.
So if the ionosphere of the Earth, right, harbors a bunch of energy, right?
Yeah.
And is it electricity if it's just energy?
No.
Now, if you get a lightning strike or you get a Wardenclyffe Tower that then takes the energy and makes it into electricity, was it electricity before it was perceived, where it was curated?
No, you're saying before it was
potential electricity, so it was potential sound. There was part of the formula that happened where you had waves that could, if there were any ears around, become sound. So that it's potential perception, but not perception. It has to be perceived.
So if there's lightning in the sky and nobody sees it, is the lightning actually there?
You have to have agreement. Did anybody see the lightning? The photons travel through the air and enter the optics of some eyeballs.
But things can still happen without anybody seeing it. We can see the effect of something because it happened.
This is
off
a semantics.
In some other...
This is a definitional game, and you play this thought experiment game to get a better grasp on things that are not of the natural world. It feels silly when talking about, well, lightning happened regardless if somebody saw it, but it's definitionally, if nobody saw it, then lightning didn't happen because it wasn't processed into something. In order to have lightning is part of the human experience, right? You have to have sensory organs that can interpret a thing that happened, and then you make it be called lightning.
But it can't exist without people seeing it. It can.
Go ahead. Tell me about it.
I'm trying to think of an example.
Okay.
So oftentimes we'll get weather in our area.
Yeah.
And they'll say it's coming from this tropical storm in some other area. It's going to storm somewhere else, push rain, and we'll see it.
Right.
So we know that something occurred that we didn't see or experience.
Okay.
So something can occur if nobody sees it. And we know that to be true. So how?
Hey, if nobody saw it, how do you know it to be true? So there's something
Maybe we got rain from it. Obviously, it came from somewhere.
You're making a jump. What if it didn't come from somewhere? What if the origin was the first perception of it?
What?
What if the origin of it was the first perception of it?
The rain just came from here, nowhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
But it could also have come from somewhere else.
It could have.
So if one, then
and it would have been more helpful if more people would have saw it, because then they could have told us about it. But since nobody saw it, it didn't happen until someone saw it.
This is that whole Schrodinger's cat, isn't it? Again, the cat's in a box. It's either alive or dead.
No, it's both live and dead.
Yeah. But if you don't know, that means it's both live and dead.
Right. Potentialities mean that the superposition is both things have happened and not happened.
And I get that idea because of
perception. A quantum level.
But it is actually one or the other.
That's your perception. See, I can say it's not, right? And you can say it is, because we just have two different perceptions. I am open to things different than you are open based on different information.
Then how do you know the Annabelle doll is not actually possessed?
It doesn't matter. Like if you believe it, you are free to believe it. And if I don't believe it, then I'm free not to believe it. One of us is going to be right and one of us is going to be wrong.
But you don't believe it because you think it can't happen.
I didn't say that.
Why don't you believe it?
I wait until I get more information. It could have very well happened.
So you're saying it's plausible?
Not plausible. It has a potential.
What? Not plausible, but has a potential.
Yeah. So in the cat experiment, the cat could be dead or alive.
Yeah.
There's a potential for it to be alive, and there's a potential for it to be dead. And with information, you could take a measurement, which would cause quantum collapse, right? And then one of those two things would be revealed, and that would be the state of perception, which of those two existed. So you can make the argument that things exist in the quantum world have not yet been decided, and our perceptions collapse the quantum wave, and now an agreement could be made by multiple people.
I've wondered sometimes, God, I feel like sometimes our conversations, people must tune in and think we're like high on something. But I do wonder this sometimes.
Yeah.
When you have a discussion about things like God, like, is there a God? Can a God be omnipresent? Can a God know you and what you're doing and what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and everything you pray at every moment of every day? Yet there are billions of us. How can he be doing that with everybody? I've often wondered if there is sort of this gap in time perception to where,
No.
like, I'm perceiving myself and what's happening, and I'm assuming there are billions of other people living their lives right now at the exact same time. But what if they're not? What if everywhere outside of this room has just hit pause because God's addressing my life? And then maybe he's got something else to address, and we're paused while he's doing something else. We don't know it because we're just experiencing our own time, our own perception. Like, you ever have surgery? Ever get put under anesthesia, or even just fall asleep at night, I guess, and you wake up,
Time went by super fast.
Yes. Yeah. And I've woken up and said, "Oh my God, we're done? We're done?" Well, yeah, it took about it's been 4 hours. And I swear to you, I just shut my eyes and opened them again.
Yeah. You entered another plane of consciousness that is related.
So that is how an entity like God can exist and be omnipresent and be dealing with things at all times, because you think all these other people are on the same timeline as you when maybe they are not.
That's why I said the natural world is governed by two things, right?
Yeah.
Time and space, right? If you want to jump to a different supernatural plane, then space no longer applies and time no longer applies.
Kind of like all the people in the Bible. Well, how can they live to be 480 something years old? 480 something years old by your understanding or by what it was?
So do you remember that movie Interstellar?
I have a headache too, Joseph.
Do you remember Interstellar?
I don't think I ever saw that.
Okay, so it's basically a space travel movie. One ship goes out into interstellar space, and I think it's to save the world. Maybe I don't remember what the premise was.
Probably.
Yeah, I've watched too many.
It's usually
dystopian,
to save the world.
But they're one of the they get really close to the black hole of the galaxy. Right, a black hole nearest Earth. Maybe it was a star, something with a huge gravitational force, and they start going really fast in their spacecraft. They land on a planet that its time sequencing is every second on this planet is like a year on Earth. Okay, and so really, because they're going so fast, they're experiencing a time differential between what Earth is experiencing and what they are on this planet. And so like the other day, somebody did a calculation on, since the movie came out, then like 17 seconds would have been, or I'm sorry, 17 years would have been, let me get this right. Let me get loosely closer. So 10 minutes went by on this planet. So when you're watching these actors, like, start a fire or something, think 10 minutes, that the time on Earth in the time it took them to build a fire since the movie came out. So 10 years went by here and 10 minutes went by there. If we talk to both of those people, right, they would say, holy shit, 100 years went by on Earth in the time it took me to build a freaking fire. That would be a weird juxtaposition on the passage of time, right?
Yeah.
But it makes your brain do a little bit of gymnastics, knowing like, well, what if there are things going faster than us and are experiencing time differences separate from us? When they look at us, they can't compare it because we're on different planes.
And we just talked about this the other day, the being able to conceive time differently. Like, you and I have the same 10 minutes, but if I'm doing something really fun and enjoyable and you're sitting somewhere bored and hating it, right, that 10 minutes feels totally different for the two of us.
So do you think all human beings experience the passage of time all identically?
No.
So we have time or plane differentials, right?
Yeah.
In dimensions. So if the dimensions of planes where things like VR or things that the pineal gland are stacked up, where you have these planes of degrees this way, you also have time differentials that stack planes of time differentials horizontally or vertically rather than horizontally. So you can, let's just say you plotted an X and Y axis, and then you started messing with your perception so that distance and measurement didn't apply anymore. And then you did another thing that messed with time where the experiences could be, truncated down to 1 second. When you take your perceptions and how much they can be skewed and altered, if you're hitting both the X and Y axis, you can have a completely separate existence from everybody else. You would not have agreement anymore. It's important to human beings that we have agreement. How much, if I experienced 100 miles on the roadway, it's very important that you experience those same 100 miles on the roadway. And for everything from mapping to low GPS and whatever, it would be terrible if 100 miles was different for every person.
Yeah, you can never explain anything.
Right, go 5 miles, and then my 5 miles, right, would take me 16 hours to get there, and it would take you 5 minutes to get there. That would create chaos.
And you could sort of take that into explaining, like, how we're trying to explain different concepts to each other.
Yeah.
If something seems one way to me but seems one way to you, I'm not grasping the concept, and you're not grasping what I'm experiencing.
And when I emphasize one of these terms that I'm disagreeing that we're using the same definitions, that's when I repeat it multiple times, that's the reason, right? So when I say something like agreement, that matters a lot. Like how, if you can get two people, okay, so I'll take a dollar bill out of my pocket, okay? If we agree that it is worth $1, okay, we'll be pretty sure that that's a real thing. That dollar is real because you agree it's worth something and you'd be willing to trade something for it. But if I took that $1 and I went to a primitive tribe in the middle of the Amazon jungle and I'd be like, this is $1. This is worth a lot of money. And the dude tries to light it on fire because the value of that thing is heat and food and whatever, it's utility to that person. So who's right? We no longer have agreement that dollar was worth trade on someone who doesn't agree. So real, like actual physical, doesn't really exist. It's all about what we agree is a certain thing.
Kind of like when you have those what is it called? Like the Bitcoins and the what is that called? Cryptocurrency. Yeah. Technically, you could have a piece of cryptocurrency or whatever it comes in, and it could be very valuable.
Yeah.
But if a bunch of people decide we're not doing crypto anymore, nobody cares, it's no longer valuable.
That's exactly right. You have to create a mass delusion of perception in order to something to carry value, especially things that don't have utility to them. That dollar bill in utility meant fire and I can cook my food, and it's important. If we don't have fire, animals attack our tribes. So utility of that thing could be different.
Value in different
but if
ways.
you have no utility, if nobody's using it, nobody can see it, then the real world of value, which is usability, goes out the window. Not the illusion of value where I got a gold bar, right? Yeah. That's really valuable. No, it's not.
So you have a room full of Christians.
Yeah.
They believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
They follow Scripture. They follow Jesus. They believe it's affecting their lives. They believe things are happening for reasons that are of God, and they're living a certain way, and their life is affected by that belief. And you have a room full of atheists, and they don't believe any of that. There is no such thing. Nothing is affecting our life. Nothing is happening. Is there a God?
What do you mean? What is the word? What is there a God?
Is there a God?
What do you mean? Is there a God?
Is there a God?
So is God the?
Can a God exist?
If your definition of God is somebody or something that created something, then yes, I believe there has to be an originator of everything, right? And there's going to be a pressure, a science, a person, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but is it more probable than nothing created everything or something created everything? I'm going with the something, and it has a higher probability to me.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've been in a discussion with a family member a lot lately who is an atheist. And very much is like, I believe in science. I believe in science. That is it. There is science. There is no creator. There is no whatever. And I'm just like, but science changes all the time. There's often we see things that science has disproven or changed, or we believed one thing and then got new information and now we believe another. And so how is to say science is a catch-all? And he's like, well, there is no creation. There is no some entity made something. It can all be explained scientifically. And I'm like, but, and I realize this question is childish and I don't mean it to be, but like, well, then who or what created science? Like if you believe in the Big Bang, one day there was just a big bang, a ball of energy, and it shot out atoms and all these other things, whatever. Where did that come from? Where'd the bang come from? Where'd the energy for the explosion come from? Like something made everything down to its first form. And like you said, whether that's God, a person, I don't know, but
so think of it, if you were looking at the progress bar of understanding of anything in the supernatural world, we have less than 1% understanding of what it is. We're primitive apes who are looking up at things we don't understand and trying to make sense of it. So you would have like an adoption curve of the people who absolutely know what it is, and I don't believe you, and people who say I absolutely don't believe in it. There's nothing. I don't believe you either. I go more towards Christians because they have more of a curiosity of what is, and they're obviously tapping into information that I don't have. And my curiosity says I need more information, not less. And so if you're curious and you're trying to discover and you're parsing through connection to things that you don't understand, that is, I think, the healthiest pursuit of getting a better understanding. People will say, no, don't look at any more data. It doesn't exist. Don't even worry about it. That is the opposite of curiosity. I don't know what the antonym for curiosity is, but that's the opposite of that. Like, we already know it. No more to come. Don't even worry about the supernatural world. It doesn't even exist. Science says supernatural doesn't exist. Stop looking. That I don't trust more than I don't trust that.
So you believe there is a supernatural world that exists?
There is probably more supernatural world than there is natural world.
A lot of the people that have the near-death experiences say that this, what we know, what we live in and experience is not real. That this is a simulation.
Totally agree.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like I've seen a bunch of the people that have claimed to have had a near-death experience say it's almost like they woke up from a dream. Like when you wake up in your bed in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm here. I've been here the whole time. A lot of them have said that's exactly what it feels like. It's like, oh, I'm back again. Like I didn't even realize that wasn't even real.
Yeah.
You think that's what it's going to be like when you die?
I don't know, because if it's such ingrained in us that we have to put everything through the lens of space and time, and then there are other supernatural planes that don't adhere to any kind of space and time. I don't even know what that would be like. What is another plane that doesn't use matter? What would it be? What if it's all energy? What if energy and matter were reversed and the density of matter is opposite of what we experience now? So we have trillions of galaxies that are so far beyond comprehension. You take on top of the galaxies that we can't even fathom, even denser things and more obscure things. I mean, it does blow your mind. So it would be a constant pursuit to look at the scale that's outside of us and how minuscule we are and how of a lack of understanding that we have about everything. So I'm going to try to get an understanding. If I can just get a 1% more than everybody else, I know that I'm not knowing a lot. Who would know more? The person on the outside of that plane that's looking at this little existence as known already and has moved on to the energy plane or whatever.
But if a person came to you and said that, hey, I moved on to the energy plane, I experienced it, I saw these things and I know what's happening, would you believe them or no?
Are you built in flesh and blood? Your body didn't experience that. So I would be curious how you got there. What part of you... But
didn't you say you can sort of meditate and activate things in the brain?
I don't know. I know you can get to a place that's not here by using your imagination and thoughts. I don't know that is that we even possess anything. So let's just say we go to another solar system, right? That's not carbon-based. Everything we know is carbon-based. Biology is carbon-based. So what would a life form be if you took another element? What if there's a whole different set of elements that are not ours? None of our elements exist there, and none of their elements exist here. So what would they look like? We would try to put them through the filter of what a carbon-based life form would look like
Yeah.
when they're like a scuba. That's an element on their periodic table.
Yeah.
We can't fathom it because we would all be like, well, what about molecules and what about atoms and what about the processes that I'm
Electricity
familiar
and
with?
energy
What's
and-
that look like? So the God would look more like something that is unknowable to someone who is already a carbon life form. So the antenna of imagination and thought process probably gets us only a few degrees above our current plane. I don't think we have the capacity or capability to go beyond that.
Yeah, and that's why I always think it's a little almost maybe arrogant to think this is it. This is just science and matter, and we formed ourselves and we evolved and we're doing this thing, and then we die and we go away. Like, how big is beyond us? How big is space? How big are other galaxies? How big is there? Like, we can't even imagine once you leave Earth how far you can go.
Right.
But we're the only.
But I wouldn't call it arrogant though. I think that's a phenomenon.
Close-minded. Maybe
not even close-minded. I look at it again. I'm a utility person, so everything that is beyond things that I can't use is valueless, right? So if I said that there's a planet that's 17,000 light years away from you, what is the utility of that? There is none. You can't go there. It might as well not even exist to you.
I think the utility is if you have the belief that that is true.
But
that
what's the utility? What can you do with it?
It can open your mind to other beliefs
Sweet.
and other things
so
to pursue.
Things that are beyond you that you have a vaguely loose relationship with. You've opened that doorway to know that things are beyond you. The utility of it is done.
You're not be motivation, which is utility.
Motivation for what? That there are even other things that or maybe there is a planet that is close enough to you that you can do. So if you're taking the one you can't get to and contemplating it more than the planet you can get to, then you just wasted time on something that has zero potentiality, zero potential for you to go there.
I think a waste of time is subjective. Someone might
but
think
the
it's
utility
a waste of time,
is to open your mind that there are even things beyond the thing that you're looking at. Cool. Done deal. You're convinced. There's no more utility in it than think about it more to open the door more for something that you're already agreed on. There's no more utility in it.
Think of the door more, open your mind more, discover more.
But there are things that are closer to you that have more utility that could use that same time and energy to get a better understanding of.
Yeah.
I'm shutting this conversation down.
My mind is swollen.
This is a cool conversation. You get totally lit. You take some drugs. You sit around a campfire, and you will go probably 12 hours down this rabbit hole if you have interesting people who have an open mind about it.
But why do you have to take the drugs?
You don't. Nope.
Will the drugs affect the conversation or your perception?
Absolutely.
So is the perception changing, or is your brain just now under the influence of a substance and it's choo, 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 choo?
Oh, I don't know. Could be either way.
What?
Could be either way.
If somebody told you, I just had this amazing experience and it feels supernatural and I saw and I heard and I experienced and it's unbelievable. And they said, I had just taken a hallucinogenic or a drug. You'd be like, oh. But if they're like, I
wouldn't say oh.
I didn't take it.
I wouldn't say oh.
But would one hold more weight than the other?
No.
No.
It would just put it through a different filter.
Okay, so I said, I just saw this amazing thing. It's inexplicable. And oh my God, it's of this other world. And if the next sentence is, I saw it while on something, or I had not taken anything when I experienced this, those don't sit differently with you?
No, you had access to information, and there were two prisms that you looked at the information from, and I'm going to put it through the same prism.
The same.
Yeah. And
not one, you're never going to say, drugs caused the one.
What do you mean caused?
Drugs.
What do you mean caused? No.
Your brain to fire in a way that you're
fabricated? Is that what you're suggesting? That your brain fabricated the information?
Your brain presented physical changes.
Yeah. You got access to
and
information.
your senses were affected that led you to see lights
Right.
and images that may not have been there.
Right.
So would you not say it didn't happen?
No, I'm not going to judge that.
But
What?
you just said you don't believe that people saw something they said they did, experienced something they said they did.
I am fixated that they got information. How they got the information, right, is important. Did they do it meditative state? Did they do it using hallucinogenics? Did they dream it up in their imagination? That stuff all matters. I believe them that they got information, or they wouldn't be talking to me about it.
When do you ever think there was someone who's just lying?
Oh, I mean, that could happen too.
Like the guy that I've been watching. Is he just lying?
Could be. I don't know. If there's, I will never make the jump that I believe them to any level, right? Because it's just information. Maybe if I go do the thing and I have that experience, now we have an agreement that there's information that anybody can possess. But I'd be curious about how to get information that I don't have right now. I don't think we've uncovered anything new in this conversation. So let us move on.
We're just
we are
chasing our tails.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
All right. What else should we go to? What do you want? You want to talk about something in the real world, objectively real, that we can have agreement
on this realm?
On this realm?
Yeah.
Because you just spent a freaking hour talking about dimensions.
You're welcome.
Ugh.
You're welcome.
Man.
We're opening people's minds today.
No, we're not.
We are.
We are not.
Everybody's like, man, I suddenly believe in everything.
We created two camps. We created the Joe camp that says, hey, this is what I think too. And then we have the Kelin camp that say, hey, I think this too. And now we have two groups of torches and pitchforkers that think each other's wrong.
I think there's a third group.
What's that?
I think there's a group watching that's like, you've both lost your damn minds.
Yeah. And that they might be true. They might be.
You could be
correct.
true too.
Yeah.
Not going to argue against that one.
Okay. Next topic. You get next one.
Oh, that was mine. Okay. Do you want me to think of another one?
No. You want to talk about politics at all? Because there
was an interesting thing I saw that I cannot figure out if I should be mad at it or take it again as misinterpreted information.
Okay.
Like, we've talked before about how people will get all up in arms when somebody says something. They read it in the news and they took it the wrong way. For example, like during the election when Vance was accused of saying, or quote unquote admitting, that he made up the they're eating cats and dogs story and the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Saw the video and I realized he never admitted to making anything up. All he said is, this wasn't a story. You all weren't covering it until we said it. So I can't tell if this is one of those examples or not. But I saw some people posting that Trump said Obama and Biden made up the Epstein files. And everyone's like, now he's really gone too far. Does he really think he can gaslight us this much? Does he really think he can suddenly change his tune and he can suddenly say, we never had anything and we're all just going to look away? Now he's blaming it on somebody else and saying they made it up completely and we're all just supposed to think that everything up to this point just didn't happen. So I went and I watched the video of him saying it. And I can't figure out if that is in fact what he meant and said, or if he meant Obama and Biden made up the files as though they are included in. The files are made up of multiple people. You know, like the earth is made up of gas and sun and blah. Something is made up of something, not I made it up as though it's a story that's untrue. You know what I mean? Did you by chance see this at all?
I did. And I think things are stupid on a level where I'm going to check out and not worry about it until a month from now. Right? Because it's all getting, think about how stupid it's getting. Right?
Yes. It's a show.
Yes.
It's a show.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
what he said and who he blamed and how he's gaslighting and how he's explaining it. Like, it's so dumb, it's incomprehensible. Like, I do not understand that if you're, if you and I were in that position, right? And so far, you go into it saying, we got this list. We want the government or the people to know what the government's been up to. We want to be transparent, right? And everybody's like, okay, that sounds really good, right?
Yeah.
And then one day, total reversal 180, going in the other direction, saying all kinds of opposite stuff than what you heard over the last 6 months. What the hell is happening? And so I'm not ready at this point because there's not enough information to have even a position or an opinion on it, other than it's getting so stupid. It's got to be political, right? And because I have such a loose grasp on it, I have no idea what to think of it.
Do you think the stupidity and the growing stupidity is on purpose, is planned? Or do you think it's just a bunch of idiots handling something in a nefarious way and now we're all like, this is dumb? Clearly,
so
you guys
I play that game on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right? Nefarious or idiotic, inept or
incompetent or evil.
Yes. And right now, this feels like incompetence. Like this feels like you go over to your grandfather's house to help him program his remote control, kind of inept, just totally out of your league, trying to make sense of this little, you damn kids and your stupid electronics. That's what I feel like, that everybody is just above their pay grade, acting above their pay grade. So I will let this settle down.
Do you think, though, it's in any way they were going in one direction and then they said, oh, crap, we have to cover our asses, and they just don't have a better...
That's all my only hope. It's that deal where they're taking their time because the ungluing will happen in the government and they don't want that to happen. So they want to do both. They want to make sure that they're positioning themselves so that we don't go into anarchy at the same time that we get justice for those people. That's the only one I'm hopeful for. But it feels like a bunch of 80-year-old grandfathers are running around not knowing what they're doing, trying to figure it out on the fly. And I'm like, oh shit, they're touching important stuff. Now they're going to call me up in 5 years and I'm going to have to fix everything because we got a bunch of geriatrics that don't know what the F they're doing. It's my current state. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's what it feels like.
So you feel like the more they push back against there being any substantial evidence, you think there is, and they're hiding it?
See, I think it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the illusion of government from citizen standpoint is that there's a trust, a belief in how things are. And I'm sure you've done it. Were you ever in theater?
No.
Were you ever part of an operation where you had front side, back side, where you experienced it as a customer and then you experienced it working there and it was completely different? It almost eroded the illusion of how like even in a restaurant, you got a fancy restaurant and then you look at the kitchen of that restaurant like, holy shit, how do they even put stuff together that is edible with how dysfunctional the back portion of this?
Kind of like meeting your hero. You think it's one way, right. And then
so like man. you have unknowns that are going into government that aren't polished politicians. So maybe polished politicians really know how the sausage is made and they occupy themselves because I got a good grasp on how to stay alive within that function. But you get some novice who thinks they know how government works and they start bouncing around breaking shit because they just don't know the operational cogs that are in that wheel. And by the time they realize that they've broken so much shit that it was barely working when the inept people, the prior inept people, it just inept in a different way. The new inept right now don't know what they don't know. So they're just breaking stuff by bouncing off of it. Like that's what it feels like to me.
And we're never going to know, are we? I don't think we'll ever know.
I don't. So you got two bad choices. Either you do the thing you promised and break the entire thing, which that's the portion that I was hopeful for, or like, oh, we can't break the whole thing. That means all of us are gone and the country's destroyed and we're starting over in rubble. All we got to do is hide a couple of names that had sex with kids kind of thing. And you would expect, which you're going to choose? 1,000 victims of child predation or the collapse of the United States of America? Like, I wouldn't want to eyeball those two choices. Mine would be easy. I'd be like, the truth is that if this is the America that I live in, it deserves to be rubbleized, if that's even a word.
Rubbleized.
Yeah.
I saw a fake AI video recently of Epstein escaping prison during that 1 minute that is lost from the camera feed. Rather than him being killed, people are saying he may not even be dead. He's just gone
he's
somewhere.
hanging out with Elvis and
do you think
Saddam Hussein.
that could be true?
Likely not.
Likely not.
Very likely not.
There would be more reasons for someone to want him dead than to help him escape.
Yeah. And there would also be more reasons for him to want himself dead if he knew what was on the horizon for him. So you give the probability, it's like 99.9% chance that he is not on this earth anymore.
Not 100.
Not 100.
So when do we make what's her face talk? Is she not talking?
Ghislaine Maxwell?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I have a gut feeling about how that's going to go down, and I hope I'm not right.
Do we even know what she has claimed, if anything? Like, does she have a defense? Does she say anything? Do we know anything that has come from her?
There's some shady stuff that happened during the prosecution, and there was deals made to insulate. And so it's more the likelihood that it was a complete cover-up from the onset 15 years ago, or however long it was, means that in today, we're looking back in a time period that it will be almost impossible to get to happen what we need to happen. So if Ghislaine Maxwell got a deal where she doesn't have to, all she had to do was put Epstein in prison, only had to say enough to happen, she was given immunity on things that could leave her, like, would she sign up if outing those people meant that she was a participant in even further crimes where she was just as guilty as Epstein, right? I mean, would that be the path? Only another living person that preyed upon children, now given immunity to talk? I mean, is that versus outing unprosecutable people, right?
Yeah.
In return, like, we're stuck. I think we're stuck. I don't know. The rescission bill yesterday passed the Senate. Are you happy about that $9 billion that's been clawed back?
I don't know much about that. What happened?
So the legislature funds purse strings, funds departments, funds projects, funds grants, any kind of legislation that requires funding they take care of, right? And when Doge was going through the budget, it was working backwards. It was finding the funding sources and drawing it back to legislation that actually funded those things. And what the rescission bill does, it goes back into the same fundings, and if there's any money remaining, it claws them back and cancels out the rest of the funding sources. All right. So if there's $100 billion spent, like COVID, for instance, they had a bunch of those $2,000 checks they sent out to us. They funded it. And there were billions left over that were unclaimed. Well, a rescission bill would take the money was left over and bring it back into government, so no more funding would happen. So Doge identified the remaining funds, identified that we don't want to spend money on this thing anymore, and it basically legally brings that money back into the government. And they did $9 billion.
$9 billion? So this was stuff just hanging out there?
Yeah.
That nobody thought, hey, you remember all that money we were messing with
No,
the
government
other day?
does not give money back, right? They do not rebate. Once they're funded, they figure out ways to use the rest of the money because the next budget will be smaller if you don't use all of your money. They have the opposite of the private sector. Private sector wants to not use all of their budget, right, to save money. Government wants to use all of their budget and need more no matter what. That's why they do go excessive.
So why maybe it's a state level thing. Why do you have entities like unemployment that will just try to claw money from people rather than, oh, here you go? Is it just because it's a state level and not federal?
That's part of the legislation, so that if you have legislation have teeth where it's protecting and preserving taxpayer money, then you build it into the law. So if I'm funding, a liberal media outlet and I'm saying I'm going to budget $5 billion for it, you can go back through, and we're not going to go after a liberal media outlet, and we're not going to make them disciplined to make sure that they're great with the funding. They're going to use all 5 billion, and I'm going to give them maybe 6 billion next time. It's only taxpayers are the ones that have to be really frugal with the expense of tax money.
This is kind of like, I always hear different organizations that get grants and things. They're like, well, we have to use it or it goes away.
Exactly.
Like, by all means, take it, use it. Don't care if you throw it away, but take it.
We got to use it all. Don't get anything. We lose it the next budget funding.
And now this is the process of, hey, you didn't use it. We're taking it.
Yeah. Identifying accounts that have not exhausted their funding, clawing it back before it makes its way out the front door.
And I'm sure people are going to say, but you're taking money from things that we need.
Yes.
And you're cruel and defunding things, and now people are going to lose benefits. And
good.
Is there anything that people are looking to lose or no? Because it was just unused money, right?
Well, a lot of the second part of this is there's a lot of funding that now is no more, where it's cutting it out of the budget. Not only just bringing the unspent money back, but cutting things like NPR,
not happening anymore.
PBS, no longer going to get those. Planned Parenthood, there's things that were just cut out of that budget.
Interesting. NPR. I don't think I realized that was one. Is that agenda pushing?
Oh, yeah.
NPR? Is it? I've never really listened to NPR. I always thought it'd be like a snooze fest.
Yeah.
National Public Radio. No offense, NPR. You're just not as exciting as our show.
Well, it should be nice and boring. It should, because if they can't throw salacious things,
information.
I tell you the data, and they're like, I wanted the data, thanks for it. Now I got to make up my mind how to feel about it. They went very media-y.
Were they originally just meant to be a source of information, or are they like a show? Like, there are, I guess I shouldn't say there are. There were supposed to be news organizations of just information, but then you have sort of the opinion pieces, where you have the correspondents that then talk about what they think is happening or whatever. And that's kind of where you're like, that's not news. That's a show. Was NPR that, or were they ever supposed to be like a news organization?
What is public radio supposed to do? So we live in Youngstown. We have 6 radio stations that are within a couple miles of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
In rural Utah, in a little city, there's not enough people to justify a radio station, right? So if I set up a public one, at least they have access to information in that area. They can get weather emergency alerts and whatever.
Yeah.
So if it's intended to be the bare minimum of information transmittal to areas that don't have the population densities to justify it, that would be a great use of it. And then if you snapshot what NPR is, by definition, is that what they're doing, right? Is the focus of what they do connecting areas that don't have radio stations already?
Because if that's all it is, then that's not very lucrative for them, I guess.
Yeah.
You don't really.
Yeah. So as time goes on, it becomes something that's little, that does the bare minimum, to something that's just a competing news agency. And yet private news agencies have to compete for attention and eyeballs and against something that has public funded. So news agency number 1 has to sell advertising, and they have to actually make their money. And they are going up against a company that don't care about payrolls. They don't care about spending. They don't care about anything, but when you're competing, it's an unfair thing to compete. It should be so unwatchable and unlistenable that it doesn't create competition. Because you wouldn't have, like the NOAA, if you ever listen to weather radio.
No.
On shortwave or anything like that.
No, that sounds incredibly boring.
Oh yeah, it's a robotic voice. So if you listen to it, it says in Youngstown, it's 96 degrees, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the data, but I don't listen to it any longer than the first rotation and the repetition of the information that it's programmed to give you. Please, yes, okay.
Like when you used to call, remember you used to call the weather or call time?
Yeah. You're not sitting there listening because it's not for entertainment. It's a place you can go to get the information and then go away. Like it's not listenable.
Yeah, I need to know what time it is real quick.
Yeah.
Or what the weather is real quick.
And same thing with PBS. If there should not be publicly funded radio that is a competitor with what's on the retail side of any of those industries. Bare minimum at best. I'll tolerate it if it's bare minimum. Make it a really small expense because you're now applying NPR to not rural Utah that has 5 people. You're in big markets programming for big markets, and that's not why you were here in the first place. Now, PBS is something that could be funded by people who support PBS. It does not have to be from the federal side.
Which they do that all the time,
Yes.
don't they? They're
Yeah.
always asking for donations and funding
Right.
and things like
Run
that.
it just like anything else. Compete just like anything else. Do not give advantage to certain companies, especially ones that have a political bias in one direction. You don't then compete against it. Like if I'm going to advertise on Fox News my political side, and Fox News is going to charge me $1,000 a commercial, and then your station is just liberal advertisements. Like that is something that costs me money to get messaging from the commercial side. You don't have to pay for because it's just an apparatus of the function of government. Like that's a no-go. So, so let's just say during the hearings, if PBS and NPR said, okay, you got us. We didn't do it right. This has just become an apparatus. Allow us to live. We promise that we are going to make all of our programming completely unbiased, completely neutral. You won't even be able to see it. Keep our funding going. And I think half the audience would have been like, okay, like, thank you for being honest about it. Thank you for promising to fix this job. Hire a bunch more conservatives so you have a 50-50 split. Give editorial control over opposing views and try not to be political. And then I bet you they would have gotten their funding. And just like Planned Parenthood, all they had to do was stop funding abortions, right? If they wanted to do, pregnancy tests and they wanted to do screenings and whatever, all they had to do is like, okay, guys, I know you don't like the abortion part. We promise to stop doing the abortion part. We want to do all these other healthy things that is the reason why you think we should keep around. We're done with abortions.
Isn't that sort of, though, leaning to another political side?
What do you mean?
Like if one party thinks it's political agenda pushing to have abortions, and another thinks it's political agenda pushing to take away the right for abortions, isn't doing one or the other still leaning to one side?
No. Because we're talking about if there's an apparatus of government, you either don't do the thing or make it an unbiased thing. So let's just say we said, do you want cancer screenings done by Planned Parenthood? You ask 100 people, 50 conservative, 50 liberals, and pretty much all of them universally say that is a really good expense. You have uniform agreement. So Planned Parenthood should get federal funding because it's not a partisan issue. Everybody bipartisanly says that doing breast screenings and cancer screenings is something that we all should do. If you take those same 100 people, should we federally subsidize abortions? And 50 liberals say, yes, we should. And 50 Republicans say, no, we shouldn't. It's no longer a bipartisan issue.
Okay.
And the federal government shouldn't do that thing.
So it can't really be disputed in that way.
Exactly.
It's got to only do what the masses
Federal
want.
dollars that require 100% of the tax base to pay it requires that it be nonpartisan, or else you're going to get people to pay for things they disagree with.
What do you do, though, in a world where everybody can find a way to disagree about everything?
So you go back to the status quo is saying, what's the government for, and only do what the government was built for. And that's it. If you want to delve into arenas that private companies could totally do, and you can't get bipartisanship or universal agreement, you don't do it. Leave it for the private industries to field those things. There's such a groundswell for people who believe in abortions, right? Tons and tons of people who will march in the streets because of how much they love abortions. They will pay for it. They can fund it based on all of that zealotry towards something they love so much. They open their wallet, They can totally carry it.
So maybe instead of saying, oh, you're a billionaire and you have too much money and you need to pay more, maybe say, you're a billionaire. Can I talk to you about maybe funding my project?
Exactly. And give them the choice to say yes or no. Yeah. And then everybody who likes it can fund it, and everybody who doesn't like it knows that their money's not going to it anyway.
And if they're like, well, that's not fair, I can't find anyone to fund this. Well, what's that tell you?
There you go.
It's not needed.
Yeah.
It's not
The
wanted.
marketplace will deliver your justice for you if it's a really good idea. If they're like, if you go out and got your megaphone and talk to all people, does Elmo deserve to exist? And everybody's like, yeah. So open your wallet and take out $10 and help me make Elmo exist. And they're like, yeah, here's $10. Now the marketplace responded.
Yeah.
Elmo not only exists in words, but Elmo exists because you care so deeply about Elmo, it will cause you to open your wallet and fund Elmo.
Yeah, I've donated it to different things that I knew were public funded only.
That's how things should be. Why would you want the government deciding all the things that the civilization should need provided? That's stupid.
Is there anything you can think of that you think absolutely is a worthwhile cause that needs money?
Nothing. Zero. There is nothing that needs to be done by the government.
But maybe it's not done by the government. You think it should get money, but the public just isn't jumping on it.
That's tough shit. I mean, you got to get better at marketing why you think it needs to exist, because if you're going to thwart, if people are unwilling to give money towards something, then they don't believe in it. They're not really voting for it. And the government needs, now, subsidies, short-term subsidies towards something, like maybe there's a new innovation that's really good, but people don't understand it yet and need some help to get to the adoption curve where people will say, yeah. And if I put in a 6-month deal where I'm going to subsidize it to see if it really has traction, let the public get familiar with it, and if they want to pick up the baton after it and carry it, I'm cool with that. Short-term ones are okay. Little catalyst things.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're making your pitch.
Exactly.
And you need some funding in order for that pitch to be effective.
Yeah, but do not be a direct competition with people who can do it better on the private side.
This might be a dumb question. Do churches get funding from the federal government?
No.
None of them. Are they all private?
if they had a program, let's just say they had an adoption program that had they took advantage of state subsidy, religious groups can join in to those grants unless they're not disallowed from any kind of religious group doing it. But I'm sure a lot participate, claim subsidy funds to do stuff that rather than funding it through their congregation. I'm sure of it.
What about the idea of being tax exempt for religious reasons?
Well, I don't know if you heard about that. They are challenging, and it used to be that if you kept your church apolitical, then you were not allowed to take a political angle on anything, and you were tax exempt, right? Mm-hmm. So now they are allowing churches to be politically active and still be remaining tax exempt.
Oh,
and the goal was that the founders saw that the state was going to sort of like go after religion, and so they created the separation of church and state. So the secular government could not attack the churches, because you can control the churches if you have reign over them. So if you have tax reign over a church, you can change and threaten and rein in their ability to express their political views.
Would you call, I've heard of some churches that will go and they organize I don't have words, protests at abortion clinics and stuff. Would that be pushing a political agenda or no?
Well, now they're allowed to, so it doesn't even matter. But I'm thinking they can't vouch for candidates. They can't go on the get elections. They can't be involved in the election cycle. Having religious views and protesting things that you disagree with in culture, I don't think that had anything to do with their tax exempt status.
But you kind of have to show then this isn't my political view. This is my religious belief.
Right.
Because, I mean, abortion can be both.
Right.
So it's like, oh, we're not fighting abortion because we like this candidate. We're fighting it because we believe in this. You kind of have to.
Yeah, I don't think
show
that would threaten their tax exempt status.
Hmm.
So yes, I think they should be tax exempt for one reason, so the state can't control them. They can't threaten them. We need that separation.
They can't say what you're going to do
They
and
can't,
say
yeah,
and
they can't
teach
limit
and-
you. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. This is totally off the subject, but something made me think of it. What's going on with fluoride in the water and supposedly the Republicans pushing back against any headway that Maha made with getting fluoride out of the water? Have you heard of this?
No, I didn't see the updates. The last I saw, Florida discontinued it, and there was 2 other states that were joining them, and that's the last I heard.
So my brother just sent me some info, and I haven't really read a lot of it yet. I skimmed it this morning, but it was they being, I guess, Trump and whoever else is trying to now block that. Where all these people were on this bandwagon of get fluoride out of our water, and now they're pushing back, like, no, we're not gonna do that. I don't know why.
Well, if you would have allowed our AI virtual fact checker, I would ask her right now.
Virtual hoe bag.
I would have asked
Virtual
her.
Slutty McSlutterson.
I'll look it up. See if we have it.
She was not much help. Fluoride in water. Fight over fluoride.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Dentists don't care about it. If you want fluoride, you can buy it in the store. Connecticut preserves existing water fluoride standards government.
Yeah, see, that's all dentist stuff. This was like a Republicans versus Maha kind of thing. Dismantling a health achievement. There it is.
No, that's them. That's the original one back in May.
Oh.
Nothing really since March. Yeah, I think you probably got a AI generated or horseshit article, because I have heard
it was
nothing
from like a libertarian page.
It's probably aliens probably gave that to them.
Those freaking aliens.
I'm telling you, disinformation is their favorite weapon of choice.
Joseph says, I have been and currently president of 2 nonprofits, and we could not accept any donation with a political statement. We would lose our nonprofit if we did.
Yep. And if that all changes, do you believe like companies should have the ability to back candidates and run political ads and whatnot?
Private companies?
Yeah, private companies allowed to donate to political campaigns and fund lobbyists and give directly to candidates.
I'm kind of on the fence there.
Go ahead.
Part of me is like, well, if it's your private company and you want to do it, like if Joe Danyi owns his own company and there's a local candidate running and he's like, hey, I really like what you're doing. I got your back. What do you need? Let me donate to your cause. Part of me's like, why not? The only way it sort of seems then kind of is when you've got like these big billions going to candidates because they're getting something. Like it's this, if you want my money, you need to do this kind of thing, or vice versa, or I don't know. Like it seems then shady if there's like control there and agenda pushing on a scale that's, I don't know. Like I feel like it's probably the same thing. One's just bigger scale than the other. It feels wrong to say, like if someone's getting a whole bunch of backing from like, what is happening to my words today? Pharmaceuticals. God. That feels wrong. Like, this candidate's owned by the pharmaceutical company, so this is what he's going to push, and he's going to push this agenda. Like, that clearly seems wrong.
Why?
It just does. It just feels wrong. But it makes no sense. I mean, it feels wrong because it feels like then this candidate is owned by them. They can do their bidding. They can push their agenda. They can do whatever. because they're like in the pocket of the pharmaceutical people.
Well, you're only saying that because you're not part of the pharmaceutical people. Like, what happens if there's a organization that does have your interests and they will fight on things that benefit you? Do you want them to be able to express themselves?
Well, yeah, and that's where I go back to like, well, why does that seem so wrong? But then again, little Joe Danyi that just wants to donate to a local candidate because he likes what he's doing, that doesn't feel some kind of way.
Yeah, it's the same function.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I say, one feels dirty and the other doesn't.
And that's why the Supreme Court ruled that it is a First Amendment right that you're using your money to back people who have your interests in mind.
Yeah.
And the only way, and this goes back and forth because the phenomenon is when you get a big super corporation, they can blast large amounts of money behind candidates and expressing themselves. And I agree that does not help the math of our election cycles. But here would be my the consideration. If you take aim at someone, right, they should be able to spend whatever they need to defend themselves. So if I'm the pharmaceutical company and there's a regulation that is aimed at me, if you take aim at me, then I need to be able to express myself and defend whatever it is that you're trying to do for me. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want me, Amazon.com, to spend political money, then you in the legislature and your regulations can't target me with any legislation. And then we will have no reason to spend money because I don't feel threatened by you. But as long as companies and government have an adversarial relationship and they need to outmaneuver and outdo one another, you're going to need the freedom of defense, right? Freedom of defending yourself. And using the First Amendment is your easiest way to defend against yourself. And I don't see either one of those things happening. Companies not feeling the need to buy politicians, and I don't feel that government's ever going to stop taking aim at their disfavored industries.
Yeah, because if a politician thinks a company is harmful and they want to put an end to it, they can try to do that. But if the company is like, we're not harmful, you're wrong, we should be able to put an end to you.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it's like, you got to throw money at both problems.
Yeah. The only answer is don't have an adversarial relationship.
Yeah.
Don't pit one group against one another, and there is no fight. So the best way to dismantle the fight is not to have the fight.
Would you say kind of like, I feel like when RFK Jr. was sort of going after food dyes and all these harmful dyes that all these companies are putting in their thing, it felt to me like instead of it being RFK versus big company, they sort of went, all right, well, what can we look at doing? And then RFK is like, hey, they have found ways to make these dyes out of vegetables, out of whatever. They're just going to redo it a little bit. They're still making the dyes. They're going to be healthier. Nobody had to fight. It's just, hey, your dyes aren't safe. Okay, help us find another way. Let's find another way. Good, we're still in business. There wasn't that sort of adversarial, unless I just got that way wrong.
Well, the only adversarial portion of this, and tell me if you agree with this. So let's just say for the last 20 years that I had a chemical that helped, like yellow dye number 3. I'm a salesperson for yellow dye. I don't even know if yellow dye number 3 exists. Anyway, yellow dye number 3, I'm a salesperson. And all of a sudden, this government comes in and it disrupts my business and it threatens to put me out of business. Should I then be able to spend the money to defend my company and the jobs that are represented, even though it's making people unhealthy? The government just targeted me specifically. Right. And now I'm threatened. Should I just sit back and go out of business, or should I be able to push back against it?
Yeah, you should be able to push back.
Okay. That's fair. That's consistent.
I would think.
What's Jerry say? Government doesn't directly fund churches, but due to equality allow for grants to support secular services like disaster relief, social work, community development. It really comes down to being non-discriminate, as they are non-profits and should be treated as all others. Yeah, so if your Boy Scout troop wanted to do the same thing that your church is doing, they could, because it's not a profitable deal, and you just have a bunch of people that are participants in it. Churches aren't using these grants to get wealthy. They're doing it as an act of service. So thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry.
All right, we've hit the gamut. I got to go. Tomorrow, you're gone. MLO Bros will be in here. We'll be talking about Luke's bunghole.
Oh,
So,
God.
yeah, it'll be fun.
Enjoy that.
Yeah. All right.
Enjoy that.
Thanks, Kelin. See you guys later.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you for your support.